everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm so excited to show you how to make these super cool and stylish trousers. They are mid-waist with straight leg silhouette. They also have welt pocket on the back, side pocket, waistband and belt loops. I link the pattern I used in the description box below. Now let's get started. These are the two front legs. For the left one, we will draw a straight line at the front fly. This line is also indicated on the pattern if you need to double check. Cut this part off. On the right legs, apply interfacing on the front fly. We also need to stabilize the side pocket opening because it's cut slightly unbiased and it can be stretched and distorted over time. So I'm using an interfacing tape and fuse it onto the pocket opening on both sides. Now we're gonna overlock all around the front legs and back legs, but leaving the waistline unsearched. Next, find the notches on the front legs that indicate the crease line. We fold the front legs so that the wrong sides touch in each other. Then press it nicely to create crease line. Because we want this crease permanent, so if you have a wooden clapper on your hand, use it to sharpen the crease. At the hemline, fold 4 cm hemline up to the wrong side. Press and fold it to create the crease, then press again. If you are unsure about the length, if you need to shorten them or not, you can skip this step and press the hemline later. We need to press the crease line on the back too, but the crease line on the back will stop under the hip level. You can have a look on the pattern to verify where it should stop. Okay, after nicely press the crease lines for all 4 leg pieces, we will sew the back dots. On the back piece, draw 2 lines for dot legs. Match them up and put a pin in there to keep them in place. Then we're gonna stitch along those lines. I usually leave around 10 cm thread tail at the end of each stitch and then tie a couple of knots. This will keep things neat at the dot tips. Now onto the welt pockets. These pockets are optional, so you can skip them if you are short on time or simply just don't feel like making them. So we need to trace the pocket opening from the pattern onto the back leg piece. We're gonna apply a piece of interfacing in the wrong side in order to stabilize and reinforce this working area. Take the 4 rectangular welt pieces, apply interfacing on the whole surface. 2 of them will be folded in half lengthwise and pressed firmly. These are the welt piece, and the other 2 are welt facing. On the back leg piece, transfer the pocket opening mark on the wrong side. On the pocket back wrong side, draw a parallel line 1.5 cm away from the straight short end. On the back leg piece wrong side, draw a center line that goes along the pocket opening and then align the mark line on the pocket back with this line. Pin to keep them in place, and then we're gonna sew along this line. On both sides of the welts, mark a parallel line 1 cm away from the folded edge. It should have the same length as the pocket opening. Do the same for the welt facing. This time, mark a parallel line 1 cm away from one edge that matching the length of the pocket opening. Then turn it over and mark the exactly same line on the other side. Take the welt piece with its folded edge pointing downward. Put it on the right side of the leg piece so that the mark line on the welt aligns with the rectangular's lower edge. Pin the welt along this edge, making sure that the corners are perfectly matched. Now take them to the sewing machine. Use a small stitch length and stitch along this line to attach the welt to the garment. The trick to get a clean welt pocket is here. You have to ensure that your stitching starts and ends exactly at the marked corners. Now fold the raw edge of the welt piece downward to expose the rectangular on the garment, and then align the marked line of the facing piece with the upper line of the rectangular on the garment. Pin them in place. And just like before, we're gonna stitch along this line. Backstitch at the beginning and at the end carefully at each corner. Now you need to cut into it. I know it sounds scary, but let's do it slowly. We're gonna snip along the center of it. We cut through the middle of the frame and then extend the line to both sides. Stop 1 centimeter before the end and then rotate your scissor to cut diagonally right to the corner, creating a V shape at both ends. Just be so careful not to cut into the seams. Now turn the welt and the pocket facing to the wrong side and then tucking the corner of the welt inside too. On the right side of the garment, it should look like this. If everything is lined up correctly, the welt should sit nicely inside the rectangular frame. Smooth out everything, and on the wrong side, you see a little triangle here. Just sew some short lines over it. Let's give it a good press. We need to overlock the welt and the welt facing here. Fold the pocket back upward to the waistline. We're gonna pin the two sides to keep the pocket back in place. Open up the inside and then sew along the seam allowance to secure everything together. Then go ahead to overlock the seam we just sewed. Everything looks on track. Now we only need to sew two sides of the pocket back and then overlock them. The last thing to do is to base stitch the pocket back into the waistline. Now, unless you choose to only do one pocket, otherwise repeat the whole thing for the other side. Next up is the side pockets. Take all 4 pockets facings and overlock the inner edges. Then grab the 4 pocket bags and position the facings on the pocket bags. So basically, you want to put the under pocket facing on top of the under pocket bag and the upper pocket facing on top of the upper pocket bag. Sorry. Then simply run a stitch to attach them together, right on top of the overlock stitch. Here's how they should look like. After that, take the under pocket bag and with the right sides touching each other, place it on top of the front leg. Sew them together at the pocket opening. We will also do an understitch through both the pocket bag and the seam allowance. Fold it at the pocket opening and press the seam flat. Pay attention that the lining should roll inside, so it's not gonna be seen from the outside. Now take the under pocket bag and with the right side together, align it with the under pocket bag. We're gonna pin all around to keep them in place and then sew it from the waistline to the pocket opening. Then overlock the seam we just sewn. We will also need to overlock the side seam of the pocket bag. Just stop where the pocket bag side ends. Then we're gonna follow the notch and pleat direction marking on the front leg pattern to fold the 2 front pleats. So the first one will be folded to the side like this, and then the second one same direction. Pin them all together and base stitch at the waistline to temporarily hold them together. I like to add a bar tack just about 3 cm below the waistline on the pocket opening for added reinforcement and just a little nice detail, I think. Okay, moving on to the front fly zipper. With the right sides together, we're gonna match the 2 front leg pieces at the crotch seam and mark the seam allowance 2 cm above the front fly corner, down to the crotch corner. Sew along this line. Place it onto the ironing board with both legs stacked like this. Then flip the right legs to the other side and you kind of create a fold right at the center front. Press the fold firmly. Now with the right sides together, align the zipper tape with the fly edge on the left leg. Make sure that the zipper's end stop is a little bit above the crotch seam. Pin to secure the zipper here. We sew along the edge with a 0.7 cm seam allowance. Flip it over and sew a round of edge stitching next to the seam you just sew. I've changed to a zipper foot here so I can be able to sew near to the zipper teeth. Okay, now lay the garment right side up and position the folded edge of the right leg with the center notch. It has to cover the zipper. Pin to keep it in place and then turn the garment wrong side up and pin the remaining zipper tape to the zip fly. Open up the zipper. We're gonna stitch that zipper tape right to the zip fly. Now let's close the zipper and fold that edge back to the center front. Gonna put just a few pins there to hold it in place. Then grab your fly template and mark the fly shape here. We stitch along that marked line. Making sure that we catch the fly underneath at the same time. Now let's take our fly shield piece. With the right sides together, fold it at those notches and then sew along the bottom edge. Then turn the fly shield right side out. Give it a good press and overlock the side edge. Place the fly shield on the left leg piece so that it overlaps the zipper edge. Make sure that the overlock edges match up perfectly. Now sew the fly shield to the seam allowance. You notice that the fly shield now is a little bit free moving here, so to keep it nice and secure, we will stitch a few centimeters to fasten the fly shield to the zipper fly. Alright, now we're going to put everything together. With the right sides together, align the crotch seams of the two back leg pieces. Pin them in place and sew with a 1 cm seam allowance. Next up, with right sides together again, align the front and back pieces at the inseams and side seams. Pin to keep them in place. We sew the front and the back together with a 1 cm seam allowance. To finish, press the seam open. However, on the side seams from the pocket back upward, we've pressed those seams toward the back. Next, we'll get our belt loops ready. First step is to fold the belt loop strip in half lengthwise with right sides together and give it a good press. Then take it over to the overlock machine and overlock those raw edges together. Now cut the strip into 5 equal pieces Each piece should be about 8 centimeters. Then with the right side of the belt loops facing the right side of the garment. You see here the overlock side facing upward. It's good. So we put the 2 belt loops next to the first front split. Pin them in place. One belt loop's gonna go to the center back. The other 2 will also be on the back, just 4 centimeters from the side seams. Then you need to base stitch them onto the trousers. Next up is the waistband. We have 2 pieces for the waistband, the inner waistband and the outer waistband. Both of these should be entirely fused with interfacing. So here, the one on the top is the inner waistband. When we wear it, it's going to stay inside, touching our skin. And the other one is the outer layer. Once the pants are finished, the triangle corner should be on the left side. Okay, now we start with the inner waistband first. You're gonna take your bias binding strip. You can cut it yourself or use store-bought bias tape. With the right sides together, align it with the inner waistband bottom edge. And then sew them together at 1 centimeter. Trim the seam allowance down to 5 millimeters. Now press the bias binding away from the waistband and then fold it over the raw edge to the inside of the waistband. Press it again. We're gonna do a top stitch right here. Go as near to the edge as you can, making sure that you catch the bias binding underneath. Alright, grab the outer waistband and place it onto the inner waistband so that their right sides are touching each other. Align and pin them together. We sew this top edge with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Then understitch on the inner waistband seam. Look how beautiful and clean it is already. Okay, with the right sides together, let's pin the outer waistband bottom edge to the trousers waistline. You'll find some notches at the center back and side seams to match up. Before going further with the waistband, we need to resecure those belt loops. With their wrong sides facing up, we will run a stitch that 1 centimeter below the waistband going through the loop and the garment. Do that for all the 5 belt loops. Here, we press the waistband seams allowance upward. My zipper is a bit too long, so I'm trimming it off. And I'm also trimming the seam allowance in half to help reduce bulk. On the waistband left corner, the triangle corner, we're gonna mark the seam line so that we can sew more accurately later. It's okay if you don't do this, I just want to make sure that I keep it even. Head over to the sewing machine and sew this corner along the seam line that you just marked. Trim it down, especially at the corner, to reduce bulk and help turn it in right side out easier. We do the same for the right corner. Before sewing the inner waistband into the garment, I like to pin it to the outer layer to create stability. This will improve the accuracy of our next stitch in the ditch. So stitch in the ditch is a sewing method that we sew directly into the seam line of a previous sewn seam so that the stitch is nearly invisible from the right side of the fabric. We will use this method to attach the inner waistband to the garment. We'll stitch from the right side of the garment. The needle goes directly into the bottom waistband seam, touching the inner waistband edge underneath. To finish the belt loops, fold them up and inward like this. To keep them straight, you can mark the loop placement on the waistband edge and then do a stop stitch at the folded edge to attach it to the waistband. Then trim any excess fabric under the seam. Okay, we just have the hemline and the closure left. The button calls for a 4 cm hemline, so I'm gonna fold 4 cm up to the wrong side of the fabric. You can repress it if you like, or if you already did it at the beginning, that's good. Then use a blind stitch to secure the hem. I'm doing this by hand, but if you prefer a machine stitch, that works perfectly as well. So for this design, I chose to use a hook and bar for the closure. I'm also adding an additional hidden button inside to reinforce the closure. The bar will go right at the center front on the left corner, while the hook will be on the right corner. And then our trousers are done. Trousers might seem like a lot of work, and they definitely are, but I truly believe that if you can find a good instruction and know your body enough to figure out the right size or the basic pattern modification for yourself, it can be a very worthy project. These trousers are absolutely gems in my closet. They are so comfortable and chic. I'm sure that I'm gonna make many more of them. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that it can help you to make your favorite pair of pants. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see more tutorials like this. Thank you and see you next time. Bye!